To each of you who are in person, as well as those who are online virtually. Mr. Norcross is unable to attend the meeting tonight. He's returning from a work-related trip. He may arrive during the meeting, and he is online. The board did not meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting. Would you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 1.03, approval to adopt the December 16th agenda as printed. Do I hear a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Second. Moved by Carl McKee and second by Stephanie Gauss. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The number 2, board announcements, recognitions, and reports. First, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Gogler. Just happy holidays to everyone. The board, you have a Christmas card developed by a student at your table. We did send it out to folks that we work with and throughout the district. So if you see Kayland, by any chance, thank her for the card, the wonderful design. Another item that has come up recently with the passing of the school budget are Act 44 and Act 47, which nobody knows what they are, but I'll describe them shortly, and we are in the study process on the impact of those. Act 44 is the weapons notification, where if there is a weapon, that we have to work through a notification to the school and the families on each incident, and we're working through that process. The second is Act 47, which was directly related to attendance, cyber charter residency, and some more safety and security. So this is where students may not enroll in a cyber school if they're considered truant in their current school. And then also the requirements for cyber schools to verify residency twice a year. I believe it's November and March. So those changes go in effect here in the new year. I think one is January 6th and the other is like January 12th. So we're in the study of those laws to make sure we're implementing them correctly. So we will have more information in the January meeting of the actual implementation of those and a little bit more about the specifics. Last but not least, you have a document in front of you that outlines the work of the school board starting in January through November of next year. This is a draft of the presentations to come before you, decisions and voting. It's your first look at it, so I would like you to spend some time on it and then give me feedback in January as well if there are topics missing that you would like to see or rearranging of topics, but this is the outline for the entire year. So you can see this year is going to be a very busy year financially, building projects, bids, updates on programming for the facilities, grade realignments, reconfigurations, residency as far as what school you would go to for boundaries. So when you can look at this list, it's a heavy lift for the year. But just wanted to get this in front of you so you know what's coming throughout the year. So any feedback will be appreciated at the January meeting. That concludes my report.
Okay, as far as my report as Vice President, I'm really looking forward to these presentations that were scheduled for tonight. It's important, I think, for the public as well as the school board to hear about what's going on in the school district. And we heard about the Lincoln Intermediate Unit and the Franklin Learning Center, and so we're going to hear tonight about the Career Center. Of course, it used to be the VOTEC school, and some years ago, it was changed to Career Tech Education, and it seems as though VOTEC's not the word to be used. But whatever the correct terminology is, it's a very important part of our educational process. The comprehensive annual data report, I hope you've all reviewed the printed report that we received prior to the meeting. As we brainstorm what schools of distinction by 2030 will look like, a key reality is that our mission is to prepare all students for a future that's going to be very different from the one that most of us entered whenever we graduated from high school. The need for rigor and high standards hasn't changed, but the methods of meeting those standards has changed dramatically. Our educators will continue to change how they teach while maintaining the core subjects necessary for each student. One of the very important things I feel is the remedial learning, because we need to have all of our students graduating with the basic skills that they need for their future. Critical thinking and project-based learning needs to be integrated into the classrooms for all students. It should not be something that is isolated to a few. The PSSAs and Keystone exams measure reading, math, and biology, but there are so many other subjects that teachers teach that are so important, and they need to be recognized equally. We'll be hearing tonight about some star teachers that we have in the subjects that are tested, but we need to remember that history and civics and phys ed and many other subject areas are equally important. Public education is critical to our future, and every person who is involved in our schools impacts students in their education and need to be recognized. One of the things I wanted to point out, if you haven't listened to the podcast that Mr. Bigger has done on a couple different subjects, the most recent one is the artificial intelligence with Jonathan Michael. I'd really encourage you to listen to those podcasts. They're very good. 3 board members attended the PSBA required training for newly elected and re-elected board members this past Saturday in Mechanicsburg. And Mr. Piper, a newly elected member of the board, is actively involved with the administrative staff on the onboarding process. And so education is not isolated to students. We all need to continue our education. Moving to 2.03, we have the NJRTC report. Is there someone here for that?
Nope.
Looks like we don't have one, but I will point out that March the 4th at 9:45 is the pass and review that some of you have gone to at the high school. I'd encourage you to get that on your calendar. March 4th, 9:45. It's a very, very impressive presentation that the NJRTC does. Moving on to 2.04, the student government reports. We have the Cassius student government representative, Amar Hassan, and the CMS representative, Braden Lehman. Whoever wants to go first, go right ahead.
All right, so hello, thank you everyone. Yeah, Cassius. Okay, so the next slide, please. Okay, so to start off, we're also working to reopen the Cassius cupboard plus the closet. So prior to COVID, the Cassius cupboard and the closet were established to try to provide food and clothing assistance to students who are experiencing economic hardships. And it stopped operations because of the pandemic and because the person who ran it retired. So the Cassius student government is working along with the IB program to reopen both. So next slide, okay. So the first part, the Cassius cupboard, which is going to be the food pantry aspect, we've secured a space for the pantry and started to clean out the space. And we're also working with many local pantries to gain support and ideas. Some of the places that we've contacted are churches like Falling Spring Church. We're also seeking support from organizations like United Way and some people like Mr. Lance Walker, who's also helping us with this. And we voted yesterday at our executive meeting to approve the funds to begin stocking the pantry. We're going to start off with giving bags to 10 Cassius students. We're going to call them Go Bags or Power Bags. And their purpose is to make sure that the students have enough food or drinks over the holiday weekend, over the holidays and the weekend. The holiday is one of the longest periods of time where students go without food. And by giving them one of these bags, they'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so the plan is to pack 10 identical bags with non-perishable breakfast and lunch items with like snacks, drinks, and we're gonna like hand them out on Friday afternoon, and the students can come pick them up. The students will return the bags the following week, and we will pick them up again. And we're gonna start small, and we're gonna hopefully grow it up from the bottom. All right, so next slide. And then the second aspect is the Cassius Closet. There's already a lot of like donated items. I don't know if you saw in the last picture, but we just need to like sort that and hopefully get that into like a system going. And Miss Sin, she's the autistic support teacher. She's been working on getting the closet open, so we're gonna hopefully partner with her and see if we can get that going. And once again, we're gonna be partnering with IB to complete this task throughout January. And the goal is to allow students who need clothing to be able to shop for a certain number of items throughout the school year. And we're also talking with the Chambersburg Engagement Center. I know that, I forget what her name was, but she wanted to, well, this was also her idea to open up the closet. So, okay, so next slide. And then, so the last thing for today is we're gonna talk about Trojan Spark. And Spark stands for Students Promoting Action, Restoration, and Kindness. And this program was spearheaded by myself and Gabriel Cieza at Cassius. And we're basically working to start a change in the mindset of Cassius, rediscovering the potential of the once great school. We're gonna clean its cafeterias, restore the bathrooms, and we're basically just gonna like revitalize the heart of the school. We're targeting school culture. So basically right now we have a team of students working to clean cafeteria tables and sweeping during the lunch waves. And we're also working on cleaning options for detention. So like if you go to detention, instead of sitting there for 30 minutes like in silence, you have the option to clean the school, to like possibly leave early maybe. We're still working on that. There's some flaws with that. And also the bathrooms at Cassius, they're very disgusting and trash. So we're trying to find ways to clean them up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick a model bathroom, and we're basically gonna like repair things like door locks, mirrors, etc. And we're gonna put like fancy soaps, paper towels, and make it smell good. And based on what we learned from this, we're gonna reevaluate, and we're gonna further it to other bathrooms as well. I know that Mr. Benaz, he likes to call it a Chick-fil-A bathroom, so we're gonna try to accomplish that. And the main like target of this program is probably to target the school culture, because that's like one of the main problems behind everything. But yeah, I think that's all for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He always cracks me up.
Good evening. I am Braden Lehman. I am the CMS president. So in case you're wondering why it's not Emma this time, it's because last time Emma took my spot and I watched a little bit of it, and thank you, Emma, for filling in for me. She did a wonderful job. But I'm Braden Lehman, and the reason I wasn't here was this actually leads in to my next slide, please, is because I was in National FFA. I'm sorry, one more slide. I was in Indianapolis, Indiana with my FFA chapter from Career Tech. So it's very fitting that Dr. Schumann is here. And so me and another CMS student, Danielle Harold, were on a landscape team, and we finished 19th in the country. So that was roughly 45 other states, Puerto Rico, DC, and all those areas. And then our vet assisting program also had a team there, and we had one student from CMS as well, McKenna Murphy, and their team finished 26th. So it's really a statement between what happened this past summer with Skills USA and then now FFA of how successful and determined we are as students, along with our overall program over there at Career Tech. Moving along into the next slide, please. We just completed our tours. So CMS, along with, I know Cassius also went over, and hopefully I'm not stealing Dr. Schumann's thunder. But freshmen were able to come in, and they were given guided tours by Career Tech students. All the students got to go around and spent 2 minutes in each shop, and then a shop student gave sort of a quick rundown of what a semester looks like in each shop. And then after they toured every shop, they went into a room where there was tables set up with each shop, so that way they were told to select their 3 top top choices of shops. So they could go up and actually talk to students in those shops, get a little bit of a better idea what is consistent of those shops, to get a better idea of is this a good fit for me? Is this where I see myself going in life? And then later on in the week, we open up for open house, and the kids can come in with their parents, explore once again to better equip themselves going forward. So that's Career Tech news. Moving on into CMS news. Could you please change the slide again? Thank you. Obviously, we're in the Christmas holidays now, but I'm going to backtrack a little bit to Thanksgiving. We had a Spirit Week for Thanksgiving break, trying to get students involved, excited for, break, along with just coming into school. So we had different days, flannels, Thanksgiving Twin Day, stuff like that. But also our Key Club also was collecting stuffing boxes, and they were able to raise 216 boxes, and those boxes were then donated to the Kiwanis Club, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, for them to be able to use and bless families with. Moving forward, please, to the next slide. We now, obviously, holiday events. That's happening currently right now, so door decorating. Some teachers' faces might end up on doors, like Mr. Foltz's you see there. A lot of creativity and time goes into that. Spirit Week competition, so then, of course, then we have Spirit Days again this week. Today was hat and feet day, so wear a special hat, Christmas socks, things like that. And then the winners get to then get what we call, shoot, it left my mind, Santa Bucks. They get Santa Bucks because then on Friday, instead of having classes, there's movies, games, intramurals, type like that, to go into the break. And then a bunch of different clubs, Key Club, Bible Club, any club is able to fundraise then. So then as a student government, we will provide these Santa Bucks from our budget to then be rewarded to these students or mentor that wins. So that way it's then able to also support those clubs as well. Moving forward, please. The CARES Day. So I'm not sure exactly if many of you know what CARES Day is, but it's Community, Achievement, Readiness, and Enrichment and Success. So sort of the idea behind it is so to get a feeling of like family and belonging, and also getting being able to help others in the community. So this past CARES Day, sorry, my father is a teacher and a bus driver for the district, so he got a bus and drove students into downtown. So our one social studies teacher, Mr. Foltz, led a history tour of our town, going to the old jail and just talking about what, our roots in Chambersburg. We also had a school, some students go to, I believe it was Angie Buchanan, and they did STEM-based learning. So they did some STEM-based projects with, I believe, 5th graders and got to engage with them. Along with them, some other students got to read with some students in lower grades there as well. Of course, then, actually, if you see there's that trailer there, that's a coffee shop that we had come in. And a cool little fact is actually one of our own students helps her family run that, so it's cool to see her do that, along with cleaning the school, so you can see some landscaping happening there. Obviously, that was from previous time, because I don't think they were out there in that cold weather and in shorts and short sleeves. But then, of course, cleaning, organizing, there's baking, intramurals, and just sort of something for everybody. And so, yeah. Moving forward, please. Bowlapalooza, before Thanksgiving break got out, Bowling Club, Key Club, and Video Game Club hosted a fundraiser. So then you could come bowling at Nellie Fox right after school, right down the road from Nellie Fox. And then they raised $250 that was donated to students in need. So that was a fun activity students could engage in, and a nice little way for our clubs to be able to bless their families and students in need. Moving forward, please. The next slide. VGC had an all-nighter video game club. As you know, Mr. Bound was the founder of that, which is at our own CMS teacher. So students got to hang out, play video games, kickball, take a nap where you could if you wanted to. And then a portion of the proceeds were donated then to a local scholarship as well. Next slide, please. Finally, into the academic side of things. Moving on to the next slide. Dr. Wishard's Spanish class just finished up making coding, and then from this coding, they conjugated verbs in Spanish. So that was a cool little thing that Mr. Barnaby assisted Dr. Wishard's class in. Moving forward to the next slide, please. Miscellaneous AP Physics class, egg drop, a classic. I think probably all of us have done that before if you've taken physics. So students got to design and obviously did the egg crack or not. Moving on to the next slide. This is actually one of my favorite things at CMS that we do. Mr. Grove's business law class holds a mock trial. So Mr. Grove dresses up as the Honorable Judge Grove. And students then get assigned different roles. So some are lawyers, some are witnesses, some are experts, if you will. And then previous students actually get to sit on as the jury, which is cool to see a full 360 of things. And I've never taken the class, but I've gotten to sit in on the jury and as the clerk, and to see what they deliver in execution of things just goes to show how much they prepare and how dedicated they are to what they're doing in that class. And so this year the case was a student overdosed in the school. So then the parents sued the school saying they were liable for their son's overdose. So then obviously then there's a legal battle between the school and the parents of, no, it's your fault, no, it's my fault, that whole fun shebang we all know about. So that was Mr. Grove's business law class. Moving on to the next slide. We're looking forward to a couple things here. Bible club's getting together once again this Friday night after school. Freshman field trip, the freshmen will be going to Gettysburg. Bowl-a-thon. Skills USA Districts is coming up in January, along with mid-year keystones and, of course, the semester switch. So that's everything I have, and Merry Christmas and have a blessed holidays, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing with us about what's going on at the high schools. Moving to number 3 on our agenda, the presentations. The first presentation is by Dr. Leslie Schuman on the Franklin County Career and Technology Center.
Good evening. Is that working now? What a hard act to follow. First of all, I love the Spark initiative from Cassius. I think we're going to steal that, and especially the Chick-fil-A bathroom. And Braden. I'm so glad everybody got to see Braden, because Braden, as a Skills USA national medalist for us and then an FFA national competitor, we get to see that when he's practicing and competing. But it's awesome to see you get up here and outshine what I'm going to say now, but thank you. Again, thanks for the invitation to come and talk to all of you about one of my absolute favorite things, and that would be career tech. And I believe the key is next slide, please. So this is going to be a real quick overview of Franklin County Career and Technology Center, and then I open it up for questions at the end, but please feel free to ask questions as we're going through this as well. So current data on FCCTC, we have 6 member districts. Chambersburg is the biggest, one of our sending districts. Tuscarora, Greencastle, Shippensburg, Fannett Meadow, and Waynesboro are the districts that send to us. So currently we have 27 CTE programs. 2 of those are brand new and will open in January of 2026. And we have 33 career and technical education instructors. And then on top of that, we have LIU staff. We have 3 full-time learning support teachers and 5 aides. And then we have a workforce development department as well that is some of our teachers, our co-op coordinator. Next slide, please. So recruitment, and Braden talked a little bit about this. We take our recruitment very seriously because we are a school of choice, and that starts really early for all of our sending districts. So we have a recruitment coordinator, and she goes out in the spring of every year to our sending district elementary schools, and she visits the 5th grade. They do road shows. Our student ambassadors go along with Mrs. Ebersole, and they visit some of the schools, they take some of the equipment, and start talking about the opportunities that exist at Franklin County Career Tech. Then in middle school, we do 8th grade presentations at your middle schools, and then we have all of the 8th graders come and tour the facility. So that was some of what Braden was talking about. That week before Thanksgiving in November, we have 8th graders from all of our sending districts through, and then we go again in 9th grade, and we really try to see every 9th grader and have them through the building. That is no small undertaking. That's a lot of people moving through our building throughout the week. And as Braden said, they're on tours and they're visiting all of our programs. They're in there for a real quick clip of time. And then we actually have an expo center where they get to get up close and personal with a couple of our students from each program and see some of the equipment and talk about some of the things that are offered. And then at the end of that, we have 2 open houses. We have one that targets middle school, and then we also have one that targets the 9th graders, because you can apply in 9th grade. You can also apply in 10th and 11th grade to come to Career Tech. Our application window opens usually about September 1st every year, and that's online. So anybody can go to, any student can go to our website, and it's the first icon. You click on it, and you start that application process. Everything is online, and then it actually gets sent to your sending school counselor. So if a student from Chambersburg, 9th grade in Chambersburg applies, then immediately once they're in that system, the sending school counselor can see that application, can edit it, can enter information that we need. And then we start, and the application process closes in January 10th of every year. It doesn't matter what day of the week that is, that's when the applications close. And then we compile all that information and we start interviewing every student that is qualified starting in about February, and then start making offers in March. Ultimately, every sending district gets to decide who gets to come, who gets a seat at Career Tech. Next slide, please. So here's a little more on that application process. Students apply online. Applications close January 10th. And then every sending district's school counselors can get into our system and see who's applied, what the status of that application is, and then they enter for us the discipline, the attendance, and the grade information that's required. Our system then, it's an online system, just automatically ranks students based on the information that is put in by the counselors. We then look at that information after the application process is closed, and anybody that is sitting with a 2.0 GPA and above gets an interview. We go to all of the sending districts and sit down with counselors and students, and every student is interviewed by Career Tech staff, and we talk about, they can pick 3 programs, they can choose their top 3 programs, and we talk about what's the best fit, where to put them, how to rank them, and then again, that information is shared with the sending districts, and our sending districts can reshuffle, like we can give you, here's, based on the rankings and the interviews, here's the top 100 students from Chambersburg. And then your district can decide, well, we want to reshuffle a couple, that is fine. And then that's who we offer the seats to. Next slide, please. So here's some information from our current, well, no, this is actually last year, sorry. We don't have all of this information from the current school year, but there you can see the breakdown by our sending districts, and then semester 1 and semester 2, what your population is, total enrollment for the year, and what percentage of the population that is. You see Chambersburg is at 39% for last school year of our total population, and that's pretty consistent. You're usually right around 40%. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of a breakdown of what our schedule looks. So Career Tech is actually a semester-based CTC, and there's a lot of different delivery systems for career and technical education. Some schools are comprehensive, like Carlisle, where their career and technical programs are actually at Carlisle High School, and students can just go back and forth from their academics to a period of auto tech, and then back to an academic class. Some schools are half day, where it's an AM session, and then the students go back to their sending school for their academics in the PM. We're a semester, so very much like a college schedule, but whatever semester they are with us, they are with their career and technical instructor that entire time, all day long, and then they come back to the sending district for their academics. So basically, everything we do twice. So we do like 2 school years in one. We do our NOCTI testing, which I believe Faye was talking about some of the testing that students do. The NOCTI test for us is like the nationally recognized standardized test for career and technical education. This is also something that counts for your students for the Act 158 Pathways to Graduation. So it can take the place of a Keystone exam. Makes a lot of sense for our career and technical students because they're spending 3 years in their technical program learning those skills, learning the theory, and then NOCTI is actually both sides of that. They do a practical assessment where it's not from their teacher. We bring in industry partners, industry experts, and they evaluate the students on their practical skills, and then they have to actually take a written test that is the theory side of that, the knowledge-based side of that. So as far as standardized testing goes, so that one makes a lot of sense for career and technical education. But we do that twice a year. We do all of our industry certifications twice a year in the programs, and then anything else that is done throughout the student day. There's a schedule, a very generic schedule there on the right side of that slide. So our students, we're kind of like Grand Central Station. The arrival in the morning is very staggered because of where everyone is coming from. So from 8 to about 8:40 every morning, we have buses arriving, students arriving, heading to their programs. And the same thing happens at the end of the day. The dismissals are staggered. So on any given day, our students are getting about 5 to 6 hours of career and technical education with their instructor. Next slide, please. On the student services side of the house, for administration, we have an administrative director, an assistant director, and a principal and a business manager. And then our professional and learning support staff, we have 2 school counselors, and they split all 27 of our programs. 3 learning support teachers, and they are all actually Lincoln Intermediate Unit employees. But again, they cover all 27 of our programs, and they are in our programs working with the students every day. And we have 5 instructional aides, also from Lincoln Intermediate Unit, and they do the same thing. They're present in programs with students all day, every day. Next slide, please. So I know this is probably really hard to read, but that is our CTE program list. So you have on the left side is the name, is our career tech name of the program, and the second column is the SIP code. So that is the classification number that is known nationwide for a career and technical education program. And then we actually have what the nation considers or calls the title of that program. The ones that are in yellow are 2 teacher programs. So we have 3 programs at Franklin County Career Tech that are 2 teacher: cosmetology, allied health, and culinary arts. So with 2 teachers, they can have double the enrollment of students at any given time. Next slide, please. And Faye, thanks for leading into this one a little earlier. So this is one of those we talk about a lot. When did vocational education change to career and technical education? Because it is not uncommon for a lot of people to refer to us as the VOTEC, or do you work at the VOTEC, or my student wants to go to the VOTEC. That terminology holds a lot of, there's a lot of pride tied to that for people that have come through the school during that time when it was VOTEC. It changed in 2006 with the Carl D. Perkins Act to Career and Technical Education. And at that point, that was a major shift where the Bureau at the state level became the Bureau of Career and Technical Education, and they tried to kind of push that vocational terminology away or aside based on the fact that they were looking at it's not just skill training anymore, but we're going to put in academics, and it's going to be aligned to technical skills and training, and post-secondary will be an option. It's either career tech or college. It can be both, because what's required now under the Perkins Act is that all career and technical programs, anything that is a state or federally recognized approved program, has those things that you see listed there. So a program of study task list. So that's what we basically consider our curriculum. So every program has it. It's a list of competencies and skills that our students have to be exposed to, they have to do, they have to be signed off on their teacher for a level of competency. And that is revised every 3 years. So any task list is good for 3 years, and then the state sits down and they revise it. And that's what we keep up with as far as curriculum-wise. The integration of academic standards, so we're constantly talking about how do you put that authentic math, how do you put the literacy, how do you put the science in, that it's very authentic and tied to those career and technical programs and the industries that students will be working in. Industry credentials, all of our students, all of our programs are required to have industry credentials that students have the opportunity to earn while they are with us. And we have to have, our programs have to have articulation agreements. So they have to be tied to post-secondary. There has to be a pathway, there has to be credits, there has to be dual enrollment for all of our students in all of our programs if they're approved programs. And the final thing on there is they have to have capstone cooperative education. And that's a little different for a career and technical program. A lot of places have diversified occupations or let their students out for work or call it cooperative education. But when it's capstone cooperative education, it ties directly to that task list and to the training that the students have been doing in that program. And because it's tied to a CTE program that's approved by the state and is approved federally, our students can do some things on the job for on-the-job training and co-op that other students could not do. Next slide, please. Workforce development. So our workforce development is kind of like the gold star in your crown at Career and Tech. So this ties into, we have a workforce development coordinator. Some of you probably know Kathy Eastep, but she runs all of our capstone cooperative education. And that, again, is something that's very unique to career and technical education because, for instance, students that are employed in manufacturing are unable to weld if they are not 18, whereas a student who has gone into a cooperative education placement and is in my welding program has the training and is tied to a career and technical program so they can weld. They can be an employed welder under the age of 18 doing what is considered a hazardous job, but earning a wage for that because they've been trained and they have the skills and they've been taught how to do it safely. Same thing happens in some of our healthcare programs, construction programs, which makes it a little different than just sending them out to work. We also have a workforce development program, which was new to us a couple years ago. And this is a lot like the diversified occupations programs that you may have at your sending high schools or that some of our sending districts have. The difference for us was that we targeted the 11th and 12th graders in your districts that maybe haven't figured out what they want to do and need to do a little more career research, career exploration. We have a whole lot of that at our fingertips because if they're in our workforce development program, they can go start exploring the 27 programs that we have, pair up with some of our workforce partners and do some of those job shadows, internships, and hopefully the cooperative education. A lot of our programs do internships. All of our healthcare programs require their students to do externships. So the difference there is that they're just going out for a short period of time. It might be days, it might be a week into that setting to get some experience, some on-the-job training. Those are usually unpaid. And then a lot of our programs do the job shadows, and we have now built that into, you're probably getting more familiar with our work-based learning days, where our students are tied to the school and doing something tied to their program, but they aren't on campus. So a lot of our instructors are arranging with their industry partners job shadows for all of their students on one of those work-based learning days. Next slide, please. In career and technical education, we don't do anything in isolation, so we have all kinds of advisory committees. The big one for our instructors and all of our programs are that every CTE program is required to have an occupational advisory committee, and that's made up by business and industry partners and experts in the field that come in, and what they're basically doing, they're required twice a year to meet with our instructors, and they're looking at that task list, they're looking at the curriculum, they're making recommendations of these are current industry trends, this is equipment that you should look at getting into the hands of the students so they're prepared for the workforce. And they can suggest supplements to that task list and instruction that they think, like, this is something that we're seeing. Start preparing students for this. A lot of that has come out of AI lately, like adding some of that to some of our programs. We have a local advisory committee, and that's just a broader committee that can be business and industry partners, post-secondary, community organizations, and then our professional advisory committee is the leadership of the sending district. So that's our superintendents, the director of the IU, and the director of the CTC, and we meet together once a month. Next slide, please. We keep very close tabs on the top employers in Franklin County, and as of September 2025, that's what you were looking at. You might be familiar with a few of those. I think you're on the list. But a lot of these are also our workforce partners. So next slide, please. This is something that we've really taken pride in the last couple years to kind of have that very reciprocal relationship with some of our big Franklin County workforce partners. So there's a couple on the signs. We have that signage in our front lobby at the school, but then a lot of our partners will commit to being a workforce partner for any given program. So the Manitowoc and Custom Machine one, and that's Thieves that you can't see the rest of, that's outside my machining program. So they make a commitment, and it is a financial commitment to get the logo and the signage and all of that up in the school. But what they're looking at is they're sending in their HR people for our mock interviews to get a first look at our students and to interview them when they're 11th graders. They're becoming our co-op partners and supervisors and employing our students while they're still students, and then often offering full-time employment. But they're also coming to our expos. They're hosting field trips. They're coming in and doing demonstrations. They're getting their people in contact with our students at an earlier date, and that's helping to build their future workforce. Next slide, please. This is a big one that we always get asked about, the funding. So for any career and technical center, the majority of the funding comes from the member districts. So generally that's about 80%. So about 80% of any CTC's funding is coming from the sending districts. And then the next is probably the biggest one for us as well. The Carl D. Perkins grant is a federal grant that we rely heavily on, and that is totally tied to equipment. So that the bulk of our industry equipment comes from the Perkins grant. We also get some supplemental and competitive grants every year, and then we try to get any kind of grant that we can get, to be perfectly honest. So last year, we were pretty proud of the fact that we acquired about $3 million in grant funds, and that led to some facility upgrades and equipment. We like to keep the equipment in the hands of the students. Next slide, please. Something that I don't know if everybody's aware of is that we also have a long list of adult education that we make available to Franklin County and our workforce partners as well. Next slide, please. That might be it. I think that the last one was questions. So does anybody have any questions?
Yes, if I may. Well done. Just one quick question. So the districts already know how many seats they will have allocated for their children, their students. So when they start to gather who's interested in ranking them, but they know there's a finite number they're going to have seats for, right?
Right. I turned myself off. Correct. Every district has a quota each year, and that's tied to your average daily membership. So it changes a little bit based on your population. But I think for this year, I looked at this before I left. Currently, the quota for Chambersburg for this coming year is 41.79%. So that's the percentage of the seats that you would get. So that then will translate to, based on the number of seats that we have open and the incoming class, like what number is 41.79% of that? And that's what you would get.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Dr. Schumann, to follow up on that, maybe to just help with the board, explain how that process works, that it's not necessarily career tech staff that selects the students. That process starts from the sending district.
Correct. So I talked a little bit about that. So a lot of that we don't control at all who applies. That is freely open until January 10th. And then we go in, and your sending counselors may be looking at that right now, because as that gets updated, they can get in and they can see specifically their district students and who has applied, because then they have to start providing us with that grades, attendance, and discipline information. And once that's all in, then it ranks, the system ranks the students in there. So if I pull up Allied Health and want to see like the students who have applied and what the current ranking is from all of the applications, it'll just give me a running list. It won't separate them by district. But then when I go to interview Chambersburg students, I can just pull up the students from Chambersburg for Allied Health, and I can see before we ever interview them, like, this is what the ranking is, just based completely numerically. We interview everyone, and then our interviewers, and that's our staff, your counselors, and the student sit for an interview, and we rank they get an interview score, and then that gets added to that number, that ranking. And then we make recommendations based on those rankings of, so Chambersburg gets 8 seats in allied health. Here's the top 8. And sometimes that gets shifted around a little bit based on students. Sometimes in the interview, you realize the student put allied health as their first choice, but what they're really talking about is medical assisting, because they're more interested in that lab setting and those skills and EKG instead of working in a long-term care facility. So some of that comes out in the interview process, and you can better place a student. Did that help?
One more, and this, to me, is one of the most exciting parts about what has been happening at Career Tech, not just here coming up soon, but even previously with the new programs, how we've continued to expand, maybe even out with some of the older, outdated programs in with new, like early childhood development. And that's been nothing but a success story. I'm not sure how long it's been there, but it's not too terribly old. But talk a little bit about the 2 new programs.
So our 2 brand new programs that'll open in January of 2026 is, the first one is Protective Services, and that's the title or the program name that was given to it by us. It's actually the Homeland Security SIP code. So Homeland Security encompasses law enforcement, fire, EMS, and everything that can branch out off of that. So the court system, corrections, probation, 911 dispatch, all of those options. We have an instructor with a law enforcement background that is going to start that program, and it's probably one of our currently most popular in the application process. So he was full very quickly for January, the January semester, the spring semester, and he probably will be very, very quickly full for the fall semester as well. There's a lot of support and a lot of excitement across Franklin County for that program. Franklin County government offices and your commissioners just gave us $100,000 for that program. So they are very supportive of what we're doing there, because I think they definitely have a need for those future employees in the county. The other program that we have is animal science. And so we've always had vet assisting, which is your small kind of pocket pets, household pets. And our students in that program get certified to be a vet assistant. That is probably one of our most highly in-demand programs, largest waiting list. And we look at that, and a lot of people say, like, why don't you just add another teacher and double it? Like, you have the 2-teacher cosmetology, 2-teacher culinary. There's not a need in the county for that many vet assistants, so if we did that and we just doubled it, we'd be pumping out students who the county doesn't need, there's not jobs for. So we looked at what's complementary to that would fit into Franklin County, and the answer was animal science, large animal. So that's going to look at more of like your agricultural side of it, the animal husbandry, nutrition, but we are definitely looking at the larger side of the animal spectrum on that one. So that one as well. She opens in January, and she's a full program at this point as well. So.
Approximately how many students do you have per semester attending?
We're about 550 students this semester. We balance it pretty well. Just that keeps everybody sane, the counselors and everybody that have to split them as well. So.
And what is the cost per semester for a student to attend? Generally.
The district's cost per student, $8,000, I think. Do we have a business manager in here?
We do. We're just debating what the number is.
I just was curious. Okay.
Anyone else?
I don't have a question, but, well, I guess I do. If a school board member who's never been to the Career Center wanted to visit, how would they go about that?
You can get my contact number from Mrs. Gogler or Mr. Bigger or Mr. Norcross or Mr. McKee and come see us. It is very much, you have to see it, and when there are students and instructors there to really know what we do. So anybody's welcome anytime.
I've often referred to it as the best-kept secret in Franklin County. Although
We
the
don't wanna
social
be a
media
secret.
site has got it in the forefront, but there's a lot of people who've never been there.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to 3.02, the Comprehensive Annual Data Report. Mr. Woodman? And then you can just move into your 3.03. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's all right. I think it's gonna be right here. I have it. Thank you.
Good evening. So our group this evening are my team of Drew Nelson, who's K-3, Melissa Cashdaller, 4-8, and Deb Luffy, who's 9-12, will be presenting to you and the public the inaugural Comprehensive Annual Data Report, or the CADR. This new in-depth report is designed to provide the board and our community with a 3-year retrospective analysis of key district metrics, offering a holistic view of performance and operations. Everyone received a copy at the last meeting. Next slide. Actually, we have the clicker over here there, Scott, so we'll be doing it over here. Thank you. The CADR will encompass a wide variety of data points. You can see on the screen what those are, but really we're looking at student outcomes, achievement, graduation rates, and course pass rates. It provides CASD with wide achievement data, and so also broken down by each school. Student and school demographics are in here, with trends, English as a second language for our ESL students, and special education data. You'll see some operational and climate data, attendance, safety, and discipline, some extracurricular performance with our athletic participation, and some comparative analysis, data benchmark against peer institutions and the state. The 3 directors this evening will give an executive summary highlighting each one of their divisions. They will end with giving you their strategic priorities moving forward with what they see in their data. The CADR last month was placed on our district webpage. It's a working document, and the current table of contents includes what you have in front of you tonight, and we'll be adding some more at a later date. So what we'll be adding, the comparable to the 10 districts that are our size and look like us. We don't have all that data in yet, and we'll also be looking at our December 1 counts. That's our official count each year, especially with our students with exceptionalities, so we can compare apples to apples where we're growing and where we're not growing. This exercise, working on the CADR, has been very beneficial, especially for all of our new directors, as we also are going to be looking for feedback from you on what you may want us to add in the future. There are many meetings and folks that help to put this together. Of course, the directors, our principals, our supervisors, technology, Xerox, and of course some secretaries as well. Too many to name, but a big thank you for getting our first CADA to print. Personally, I really like this report because it just gives you the facts. You can see the good, the bad, and the ugly in some cases. My 5 quick takeaways are that we went from 2 to 4 to 6 schools for U.S. and News and World Report winners for the last 3 years, respectively. Both middle schools continue to perform at a very high level. They persevered through the pandemic, and they continue to perform at that high level, and they really grow our students. And that's even with more ESL students and the demographics changing quite a bit, even within our special ed populations. The elementary division and the high school division lost significant performance during the pandemic and still have not come back to that performance level that we were at pre-pandemic. I say this as an asterisk because we also have seen quite a bit of change with higher poverty rates, higher special ed population, as well as an increase in ESL population over those years since 2020. Although CSAD, we're seeing a decline in our overall performance, it's not as steep as the decline that the state's seeing. So that was also, we're not as drastic as what the state's seeing as their overall decline. So that is significant to us. We feel that we are investing in the right areas. I know Mr. Nelson will be giving a presentation in the future on our literacy, but we still have a long way to go. And we are seeing gains at the high school level with addition of the DAO Education Center. As you can see this evening, Chris gave you a kind of a report on when presentations. I'm going to be talking about the Education Center, I think in January or February. Attendance is better at the high school. Discipline is much lower, about 40% down after we started the DAO Center. And of course, our grad rates are increasing. Once we have the achievement comparisons to our local and our 10 like districts, I will present on those, whether it's in the Friday folder or coming back to a board meeting at a future meeting. So at this time, Mr. Nelson will give his executive summary of the K-5.
Good evening, everyone. Drew Nelson, Director of Elementary, Pre-K through Grade 3. I'd like to highlight a few data points tonight from the report you all have in front of you. First, though, I'd like to start with some information that's not in that data packet. Andrew Buchanan is no longer on targeted support and improvement from the state. So congratulations to them. Hard work to the staff and students. Very nice. So, however, Marion Elementary is now on targeted support and improvement due to their English learner achievement and proficiency, which is the same reason Buchanan was on there. So we are confident that the School of Distinction plan that the staff at Marion is putting together is going to address those deficiencies and needs. So let's start with kindergarten readiness. With the implementation of staggered start, we've been able to assess all of our incoming students in kindergarten in both reading and math. And data for the past 2 years, as you can see, reveals only 20% of our kindergarten students are reading ready and 52% are math ready. Not very pretty numbers. However, we're working to improve these percentages through a few different means. Our Family Learning Toolkit for students, our team has met twice to discuss format options, content, tangibles for students, and avenues of distribution with our target completion date of spring of 2026. We're also working closely with the pre-K counts classrooms in Chambersburg, and with the passing of the budget, we're able to start working with them again. Mrs. Breslin and I have met with them and their staff twice so far. We're going to be getting out into the buildings and seeing what they need from us and what we can do for them and they can do for us. Looking next at our PSSA performance between Chambersburg and the state, you'll notice CASD proficient and advanced percentages are slightly lower than the state average for the 24-25 school year. And looking at the 3-year average for ELA, Chambersburg was 47%, while the state was 51% in ELA. And in math, Chambersburg was 44%, and the state was 48%. Interestingly enough, Chambersburg's 3-year average in both ELA and math is 4% lower than the state average. Looking next to MAP, the measures of academic progress. One of our metrics for reading by the end of 3rd grade and fluency in math by the end of 5th grade is projected proficiency on the MAP assessment. This graph shows the projected proficiency rates for students in grades 2 through 5, the dark blue from last fall, to students in grades 2 through 5 this fall. This year's projected proficiency rate in ELA is 52%, and in math it is 34%. And you'll notice the stability between ELA year to year and math year to year. Sometimes stability can be positive. However, in this case, we want to see an increase in projected proficiency rates year over year. Our critical milestones. So in addition to our MAP metric, another of our metrics for reading by the end of 3rd grade is to achieve proficient or advanced on the PSSA. This slide shows the percent of students reaching this benchmark for the past 3 years. You'll see we maintained our increase from the 22-23 school year of 40% to 46% the following 2 years. The second metric for our fluency in math by the end of 5th grade is also scoring proficient or advanced on the PSSA. And as a reminder, fluency in math is flexible problem solving, strategic thinking, and mathematical reasoning. Here you'll notice again, we have plateaued 44% 2 years ago, 39% and 40%. So moving forward together, what's next? Mr. Widman just alluded to this. Early in next year, Mrs. Breslin and I will be presenting to you our reading plan, which will include improving kindergarten readiness with the Family Learning Toolkit and the pre-K collaboration, providing professional development for all teachers in grades K through 3 in structured literacy, and training our staff in Walk to Read for implementation in all elementary schools next school year. And in math, we are currently selecting a new resource for students in grades K through 8. We've had one presentation already, and another presentation was just scheduled for January. We're looking at 5 vendors for that. So now I'll turn it over to Mrs. Cashdollar.
All right, let's take a look at the middle level. Spend a couple minutes. I became a data geek when it was my weakness. When I became a middle school principal, it was an area where I had to grow, so I've grown to love looking at data. So we're going to focus our efforts for the next couple of minutes on our academic proficiency, take a very good look at growth, something that shines brightly at the middle level, and then lead us into strategic improvement priorities. So when we talk about metrics, Mr. Nelson mentioned a few for elementary. 7th grade math is the middle school level metric that we use to identify an early indicator of success. Essentially, a quick summary is that score for PSSA 7th grade math counts twice for us. When they look at how they give us our future ready score and assess those PSSA tests. So we hone in on our results as 7th grade. Looking at CAMS North and South, both side by side, 29.9% of our students at CAMS North last year, 7th grade math, scored proficient or advanced. CAMS South, 32%. I also gave you just as a gauge below that, how that percentage of proficient or advanced compared to our overall proficiency. That would be grades 6, 7, and 8 in math. So we just kind of focused on that 7th grade. Please keep in mind that the statewide average, we were right there, kind of close, just below, was 33.7%. 7th grade math, students scoring proficient or advanced. So we were just below the state average. Strengths, 3 areas that we really want to focus on that we're doing well. We've had recent discussions. You know, we're working on a new schedule for next year, and our conversations with the admin team and then already with some our faculty meetings that we've held recently is what's the secret sauce of the middle school and how do we take that from this current year and our results into next year. So these are some of the areas and components of that secret sauce. Our advanced performance, both North and South, exceeded the state averages for students achieving advanced on ELA PSSA. And our percents are there. North had 20%, all students, grades 6, 7, and 8, scored advanced in ELA. South at 16.4, and the statewide average was sitting at 12.2. So outscored our counterparts across the state. Career readiness, that's part of our Future Ready score. Both schools earned well above the state average of 91%, with 99.7%, and South at 100%, well above that state average. And this, the shining star of probably where we spend most of our time, really focused academically, is in growth. So when you talk about MAP, Mr. Nelson mentioned that, Measures of Academic Progress. Our students take that 3 times a year. And it is very student goal-centered in growth. We exceeded our MAP growth standards in both 7th grade, ELA, and math. This is on our data dashboard, our little report card that we get every year, where we look at, there's a big copy of it, it's also in your book, where we look at our 7th graders and who doesn't meet the expectation of growth, but exceeds it. So in layman's terms, they are growing more than what we would expect them to grow in one academic year. And our percentages are there. You can note that in just 1 year's time, ELA increased by 19%, math increased by 11%. So significant jumps from last year. We also talk about a continuation of growth. 100 and 100, ELA and math, both middle schools, part of our Future Ready score, far outperformed the statewide average of 75.4 when it came to growing all students in both those areas of ELA and math. So both middle schools in this component earned the highest score possible, and the state had an expectation standard of 70. Mr. Widman is going to spend quite a bit of time talking about and highlighting our teachers that continue to kind of outshine some of their colleagues across the state in earning what we call a distinction of well above. So their impact and ability to grow students in their instruction each year, we call it dark blue. He'll talk about the details. Between both middle schools, we're talking tested subjects for 3 years in a row. 20 out of 39 eligible teachers at those middle schools earned this distinction, the highest distinction possible. So just over 51% of our teachers in those tested areas were able to achieve this. As a side note, a huge thank you to you that have gone out of your way to send recognition via email. We had several teachers report back that they really appreciated hearing from you in this regard. So thank you for doing that. They appreciate it. Taking a look at ELA proficiency. So we're going to segue from some of our highlights and our stars and kind of move slowly into some questions and next steps. So when we look at ELA proficiency, neither middle school achieved the ELA target set by the state, but both did outscore the statewide average of 49.9%. So our joint average that I gave you there is all 3 grades in both middle schools. So 57.9%, significantly almost 10% above the statewide average, still below the target that they set for us. The next is a critical focus area, our math proficiency scores. Mr. Widman alluded to kind of a downward trend in percentage and proficiency across the state. We have failed to meet, when it just comes to proficient or advanced, our percentage of students reaching proficiency. So our joint was at 32%. The state average for grades 6, 7, and 8 was sitting at about 41.7%. A key data piece, if you've been reading that Friday folder for the last couple of weeks, a key data piece that the middle schools are going to be using starting this year is something that PDE released to us called Firefly. I sent a little information a few weeks ago. We just completed our first round of Firefly testing this week. Both middle schools had students complete that in math, ELA, and 8th graders in science. And that assessment mimics what they will encounter on PSSA by grade level. Gives them, it looks exactly the way it will look in the spring, right on their Chromebook, their device, so they're getting extra practice taking an online assessment. And it also predicts their proficiency. So we already have, South went first last year, we already have reports back and in the hands of teachers. North just concluded testing today, so pretty excited to get that data in their hands as well. So falling short on that math proficiency piece, we're going to be able to more clearly identify areas of improvement. Another big need for the middle school, huge change in demographic and numbers over the last couple of years, but our English language learners are significantly below the state standard as well as the state average in their performance in ELA. North at 14.8%, South at 7%, and the statewide average is indeed 32.4%. So with these highlighted areas and targeted improvements, developing and supporting our ELL students, kind of enhancing the professional development we offer to teachers, particularly with differentiation strategies, and also kind of bringing about equal acquisition to resources available. We hope to see an improvement in that area. So quick summary of 4 areas and strategies moving forward. Continuing to accelerate our math proficiency. We're also in the hunt and on the movement to start getting our hands on a new math resource for next year, so we look forward to that. It's math's turn in the spotlight. Strengthening our ELL programs and our support systems, continuing the growth that we are very proud of and have achieved, and continue to build on that ELA proficiency and our keystone strengths. If you had a chance to look at those percentages, we are well above, with the lowest being 3 years ago, coming out of the pandemic, was 87%, with our most recent score of our 8th graders taking the Keystone test, scored at 94.1% proficient on that exam, 1 year ahead of schedule. So something we're super proud of. And I'll turn it over to Mrs. Luffy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deborah Luffy, the Director of 9 through 12 Education. I want to thank you for the opportunity this evening to talk to you about the 2 high school performances and some data snapshots of our performances. So the first one is the goal of every student that attends Chambersburg Area School District, which is to graduate with a diploma. And so you can see that there are 2 different graduation rates up there, the 96% for the Career Magnet School and the 84% for Cassius, and the state average being 88. So obviously CMS has a graduation rate that significantly exceeds the state average, where Cassius is below the state average, and so we do have some work to do there at Cassius. When we look at the Keystone proficiency rates, again, the Keystone exams are given at the end of the course for biology, literature, and algebra. Typically, our algebra students are in 9th grade, our literature students are in 10th grade, and our biology students are in 10th grade as well. If we look at the algebra scores at Cassius, you can see that there has been a consistent decline for the past 3 years, 25% going down to 17% last year. And so we really do need to analyze why this is happening, particularly since we have increased the amount of time that students are spending in their algebra class. They have algebra for a whole year, and this year they have it for a whole year and a block. So they have it for approximately 90 minutes for all year long. And so we are anxious to see how their scores compare to these previous scores. For literature, again, you can see that there has been a steady decline over the past 3 years. Literature, though, and biology have both been above the state average. So even though there's a decline in our proficiency rates, they're still hovering right around the state average, and we would like to reverse these trends and start to grow in the other way. One thing that concerned me greatly about coming and looking at the literature curriculum and the continuum is the teachers that are teaching English 10 this year are all brand new to that particular curriculum. So we did spend some time looking at the curriculum and making sure that they are well prepared to make sure that our students are going to have success on the Keystone exams. In addition, the biology scores, again, hovering over that state average, but having that decline. So we do need to reverse these trends. When we look at the Career Magnet School proficiency rates, they have a different picture painted here. If you look at the algebra scores, they're around 35% 3 years ago, going up to 38%, and the state average being at 28%. So they are about 12 or 10 percentage points above the state average. Literature, again, back and forth a little bit, but well above the state average, where the state average is 47%, and the Career Magnet School has a proficiency rate of 60%. They also did some teacher realignment to make sure that they're best meeting the students' needs at Career Magnet School. And then the biology is probably the highlight with the proficiency rates out at the Career Magnet School, having the state average be 37%, and the proficiency rates there are at 63%. So well done, Career Magnet School. Some highlights regarding our other exams that we give at the high school level would be our advanced placement, our AP classes and their exams, and the International Baccalaureate classes and exams that they take. For those of you, just to remind yourselves that the AP exam is out of 5 points and the IB exam is out of 7 points. At Cassius last year, our students who took the AP exam, 76% of them scored a 3 or higher, which is a fantastic performance rate in that rigorous course. In addition, the Career Magnet School students, 58% of them scored a 3 or higher, again, increasing the percentage of students and greatly increasing those scores. At the Cassius, we have the International Baccalaureate program, and 51% of those students earned a score of 4 or higher, and that's the standard score that you would want your students to have, if not higher, for International Baccalaureate exams. And then also for the school performance profile, the SPP, Career Magnet School was identified as having a rigorous study rate of 83.3%, which is far higher than the state average of 56. And that's due to the number of Career Magnet School students who are taking a AP class, a early to college class, a dual enrollment class, or taking the NOCTI test and scoring well on that. So that links right back to Dr. Leslie and what she was sharing today, where those NOCTI scores do benefit our students at the Career Magnet School as well. Some of the strengths from the CMS that I mentioned before, they're above the state benchmarks in the literature, the algebra, and the biology, so they're doing fantastic with the proficiency rates compared to the state average. The career readiness, which is making sure that our students have the artifacts and evidence for the career standards. They have met that and well exceeded that. They have an outstanding graduation rate, and they have very strong PVAS growth, which again, Mr. Widman's going to get into that. At Cassius, we have some strengths where we are, around the state average for the biology and the literature. We have also achieved the career standards and meeting those as well. And Cassius also has a high level of students who are receiving the industry certifications due to the Act 158 pathways that students need to achieve. So when students graduate from high school, they can achieve a graduation pathway by doing well on the Keystone exams, doing well on a combination of the Keystone exams, or also getting industry certifications. And so several of our students choose to get the industry certifications, and so that's why that has such a high percentage at the high school. Some areas that we need to work on, obviously the math proficiency rates, the steady decline over the past 3 years, and then also the graduation rate that I believe starts right in the classroom. In the data report, you will see that there is a failure report, and it lists all the failures that we have by marking period. That was a little hard to look at and hard to type those numbers into that report, but I am pleased to say that specifically at Cassius, where last year, marking period 1, we had over 900 failures for the first marking period, and that's the number of Fs, so one student could have up to 6 or 7 Fs. Not ideal, but that could happen. This year, we're down to over 700 Fs, which is the right direction. Obviously, we don't still like that number. It's still a little too high, but at least we're working in the right direction and focusing on that. Other steps we need to do is to check the curriculum alignment vertically and horizontally. Make sure we're supporting the Cassius graduation rate, which occurs in the classroom, looking at the curriculum for the mathematics instruction, and then working on making that building Cassius feel like a smaller school setting. All right, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. The directors and I are ready to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question. Is there any correlation or any kind of data that would suggest that the cohort of students that were most impacted by COVID and the whole learning environment at that period of time, as you follow them through the grades, you can see that they are part of the deficiency in the overall. And as time goes on, they'll improve, I hope, of course, but they will be through the system, and we'll have people that have started out from grade K through whatever, 12, that are no longer burdened by that lack of education they got for the couple years COVID was really, in focus. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. We do look at data where we look at from apples to apples, each like grade level going down. Okay, these are how they performed in first grade in ELA, math. This is how they're doing in second grade, the same cohort. With our high transient rate, we'd have to pull out, okay, these are just the Chambersburg students. It's something that I would love to do. We haven't done that. We do look, first grade to second grade to third grade and down through, to your point, it's going to take a while for the students that, if you want to call it, during COVID, we had a lack of quality education going on. Those students that were in kindergarten that year, they're now, I guess they're in 5th grade, is that right? 5th grade this year, so it's still going to be quite some time. A lot of those students missed out on some of the best time to work on, you know, their reading skills and their comprehension, and that could be a little bit of that. But I will point out once again, our middle schools really persevered through that. They really stayed the same, and then, you know, continue to show that really quality growth. So, you know, I think we can certainly get better.
Any other questions? I don't want to belabor my question, but the one fact that was in the comprehensive report that wasn't mentioned was the concern that I have that the IB program had one graduate last year. In December of 2021, there was a report given to the board regarding the IB program, and the previous board had considered phasing out the program because of low enrollment. And at that time, in 2021, there were 18 school districts with IB programs. I don't know what that number is today. I can't find any indication that there's been any new IB programs added. I do know that Cumberland Valley and State College have phased out their programs. And I'm just concerned with only one graduate in the IB diploma program, the cost that I am aware with fees and professional development and the number of costs that are involved for one IB graduate. I just can't imagine that it's justified.
One of the things I've often wondered too, is one student that has graduated from that program, but how many, I think maybe we need a report on how many students have benefited, because sometimes kids take these programs, but they're not interested in getting that diploma. But yet the course itself is such a higher level course that it really truly benefits them in college. The same way with even taking some of the other courses, like AP courses. I mean, they're great for the kids, so if they don't choose to take the test, it's not a bad thing. It's great if they want it, but some of that isn't even transferred into college, or they have to take different courses anyway. So in the end, I guess it's what are we looking for? Are we looking for the depth of the course and how difficult it is and how it enhances them for when they get to college? And I agree. I think it's just something we need to look at. I don't know what we're spending currently on the IB program, but what is our goal here? To have higher level courses, and is that when, are the IB courses that beneficial to the students in terms of comparing them to advanced placement? I think it just needs looked at.
I agree that it needs looked at, especially when you consider that when we started the IB program in 2015, I think it was, dual enrollment and college and the high school, many things were not even in existence at that time. And so, you know, using a delivery system or a program that was state-of-the-art 10 years ago does not mean that it is the best thing for today. And I just question if we are looking at the best for all students, is this where we need to be spending our dollars? If the dollars are as high as the curriculum director at State College told me was the reason that they eliminated their program, because of the very high expense of professional development for the teachers, the fees that were involved, a significant cost, and I understand that there's some cost information going to be provided for us, but
yeah, and that's another reason, just like I was questioning, like how much we spend on the IB program, and then how, like we're spending $8,000 to send a student to career tech. How does that all look if they're spending this amount per student for IB, and that really helps them as they get into college? So I think all of it needs looked at.
Would you like us to put some information in the Friday folder about how many students are in IB, what the costs are?
Yeah, and how many accessory courses or kids are taking, not necessarily getting the diploma?
Right. Yeah, we have 300 and how many?
We have 391 kids in the IB courses, and that's over 29 classes. We have 833 students in the AP classes at Cassius this year with 44 classes.
And what are the class sizes as far as the numbers of students that are in classes? Because small classes are beneficial to all students. What
So-
are we talking about class size?
Yeah, so the benefit of this report has really made me look and dive deep into the class sizes of all of the courses. I will say some of the language classes are sitting around 28 for the IB classes, yet some of your year 2 chemistry could be as low as 4 students. So when you take an international baccalaureate course, you know, at the high level, it's a 2-year course. So there could be, 12 kids the first year, their junior year, and then they might drop off and, go down to 8 kids or 6 kids or, however, but the enrollment is typically lower that second year. Just like in many courses, as you start in Spanish 1 and you go to Spanish 2, Spanish 3, Spanish 4, by the time they get to that subsequent years, the enrollment does decline. So when you start off a little bit smaller at 28 or 10 or 15, it does decrease. This year, there was a Latin class that was low as a Latin 1 class, and it did not run because it was so low. But when it's a year 2 course, we are compelled to run those year 2 courses because the students need that for the IB program.
So the IB puts that
Yeah, so
on
some
there,
of
so
the
you don't have any way of not running that class.
Right, so
then.
some, like the
So
history
that's-
courses are a 2-year course, so it's, year 1, year 2,
I see.
chemistry's year 1, year 2. So the IB program runs in some courses as year 1, year 2. And so it's that second year course when the seniors are thinking about other plans, or maybe their, post-high school plans have been a little bit more defined than when they started at the end of their sophomore year planning for the IB program. Think about when we schedule, students start scheduling around this time in January and February. So current sophomores are thinking for next year as juniors, and then in another 2 years, by the time they're planning for their senior year, their plans could be tweaked and adjusted so that they maybe I don't need a year 2 chemistry IB course, maybe I don't need a year 2, this course.
I too think it would be good to look into this and see, I mean, we should not, if we're looking at all kids to run a class with 4 students in, that's, we have to look at the manpower we have and the resources we have in helping all students. And I know in some districts, Mr. Bigger, I don't know if it's something we want to look into. If it's a low enrollment, it just isn't run.
Correct.
And any low enrollments must be brought for the board for approval before we would even run that class because
Yep.
of what you're saying, Mrs. Gogler, about, how many benefiting all students. And yes, we would like, other kids would like to be sitting in a class with 4 students.
Well, I also think about the teachers. What teacher wouldn't like to have 4 or 8 students in their class instead of 28? And what is the impact on the teacher who is teaching both IB and AP? Do they not have to have different lesson plans, et cetera? Is that a detriment as far as our teaching staff? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I've taught, but not that kind of course.
So I think the takeaway is we just need to get the data.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I have a question, Mrs. Luffy, maybe you can answer. You said there's about 400 kids in the IB program, give or take. So if we were to decide down the road that that's not something that we did, what are the alternatives for those kids to take? Just AP classes? Or how could they, you know what I mean? Is there an availability for that? Because if we take those classes away, is that going to overflow the AP classes? Are they completely different subject matters?
That would be probably a more, I would have to analyze that data a
Nuanced
little bit.
conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just saying because I understand everyone's point, but you still have 400 kids that are in a current or looking at that as an option. So if that is no longer an option,
is there going to be ample placement for them at the AP? Is there going to be ample placement for them maybe with the academies, whatever the case might be? I don't know, and everybody 100% is about the data, but at the same time, I've never been a fan of taking something away without making sure that we are accommodating or at least finding a landing spot for the people that it's going to adversely affect. So I would be interested to have that information as well.
And again, like to echo, Dr. Diller, like there are several students who are sitting in those seats and not necessarily in the IB program. When we talk about one student getting an IB diploma, that's one student who completed the TOK, the CAS, the essay, and also did well on all the exams to get that diploma. So when you're comparing IB and AP, like there are different recognitions that you could have at the AP level. We just don't recognize them, where we're recognizing the IB diploma, where we could easily recognize the AP Scholar of Distinction, National AP Scholar of Distinction, AP Scholar, all of those. We just haven't collected that data yet, which is something that we should.
Thank you.
Do we have data relative to how many students are in dual enrollment classes and how many students get credits?
I don't have that data, but I can get that data for you.
Because there's so many opportunities.
Yeah, so like when you're talking about, the high school scheduling process, there's the IB, the AP, the early to college, the dual enrollment, college in the high school, like there's so many different options. And I've mentioned it before to other groups that sometimes it can be very overwhelming to parents and students. Like, what direction do I go to make sure that my kid is the most prepared they can be? And even when the child has a path and they think this is the direction, things happen and you have to pivot, So there are lots of different options for kids. That's the great thing. There's lots of different options for kids. That's the overwhelming thing too, right?
I think I would just like to forecast, I think the opportunity in the academy model that was presented can resolve many of the issues, maybe not all of them. But I'd rather solve that problem when we get to the future than to solve the current problem right now to a degree. So will people be more informed in an academy model about what their process is and their progress is? Because it's more defined versus right now it's open season for credits. And how you navigate that is a challenge for anybody. Even the most educated folks have difficulty getting their child to navigate through that. So here's hope that that future model will help really clarify that for families.
Unfortunate for the ones that are in the high school now.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Kurt, with your next.
Scott, could you put up the next agenda item, the display there on the CASD Hall of Teaching Excellence? In the last Friday folder, I gave a link to this recognition. We have a lot of awesome teachers throughout our district. But the teachers on this list, they sometimes carry a heavier load because their building scores are heavily weighted on how they perform, how that building performs in math, English, and science. And they share the, like I said, a heavy load of the building score and how the schools are rated and ranked against other schools in the state based off how that school performs. And we look at the growth indicators. You heard all three of our directors talk a little bit about growth. Especially the growth is pretty excellent in the middle schools, where the kids come in and when they leave and what the state expects a year worth of growth should look like for each student. And you heard Melissa Cashdollar talk about dark blue teachers. So I gave a little bit of an explanation here what the PVAS color indicators, the Pennsylvania Added Assessment System, that what the color indicators mean. Dark blue shows significant evidence of exceeding the standard for academic growth for a year, that the students' group's average growth was significantly higher than expected. Light blue is great as well. Green is basically, minimally, you want to see your teachers agreeing that they're meeting a year's worth of growth for all their students on average in their classes. When we get in yellow and red, then you start to think, okay, what do I got to do? What do I got to look at with that teacher? So as a principal, I would sit down with my teachers and go over their PVAS. And what the teachers were really interested about, they could see the quintiles of how their high students did, how their middle students performed, and how their lower students performed. And sometimes you would see a teacher that grows all the students, doesn't matter which group they're in. Sometimes you'll see a teacher that might have struggled with the lower students, so it was our job to work with that teacher. Okay, what are we looking at for sports for the lower students in your classroom? But the teachers really took value in taking a look at their overall performance, especially in that quintile. But the teachers that we're looking at, if you would scroll down to the list, these teachers over 3 consecutive years, they were dark blue, showing significant evidence that they significantly exceeded the state's expectation for growth. And we have quite a bit of amount of teachers here. I communicated with all the teachers, and I know some of our board members also communicated congratulating these teachers. I got a lot of phenomenal feedback from the teachers that they were very happy that they were acknowledged that we're doing this, because it's quite a feat to have 3 years. I was a principal at CAMS, and then CAMS South, went and turned to CAMS South for 5 years, and then CAMS North for 9 years. And some of these folks have been on this list now probably for 19 straight years. So it's more than just 3 years of significant growth. There's a lot of names on this list that are exceptional teachers that continually, they're the dream teacher you want to have your kids in their classroom. But I thought that we should acknowledge that these folks carry a heavy load. It can be stressful, for some of our teachers over getting assessed, on state exams, but these teachers do a phenomenal job, and we just want to acknowledge them. So congratulations for all these teachers for their continued excellence in the classroom.
Okay, moving on to number 4 on our agenda, the privilege of the floor. Members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. Please adhere to the 3-minute time limit for sharing your comments. And I have the sign-in sheet, but if you did not sign in, you're welcome to speak. The only person who for certain indicated they wanted to speak was Valerie Jordan, and it was on 2.02.
Mrs. Gogler, I'm going to change that to actually the agenda, the entire agenda, and I'll tell you why. This is governance. This is governance, okay? Everything I heard tonight is governance, and what I'll continue to hear is governance. I'm going to read you something. It's also governance. But first I want to say congratulations for receiving more money from the state. Superintendent Bigger informed me of that in an email because I asked him. Here's what I'm going to teach some of you tonight. Actually, everyone that's hearing this tonight, even over the internet. Visas are legal documents in our country. A visa became a formal legal requirement for entry into the U.S. following the Emergency Quota Act of 1921 and the Immigration Act of 1924. Now you know, as well as those people listening over YouTube, what laws guide us here. Here's my grandparents' story. 3 of my grandparents came to the United States from Italy and Germany prior to 1921. My one grandparent was born here in the late 1800s. My 3 grandparents didn't come on visas into the United States. They never learned to speak English either. They did work, though. Now, it was mentioned tonight about, Amir brought it up, about students in need. After the first of the new year, I'm going to write our governor. While I was away, I spoke to a woman in New Mexico. New Mexico just implemented a pilot program to get their high school students who are homeless graduated. I'm going to sit down and research it. I'm going to send a letter to our governor, and I'm hoping the governor responds back to me. He has already sent me 2 letters. I'm hoping he will send me a 3rd letter. There's also another program in Colorado. Superintendent Bigger, I want you to Google Colorado homeless students. Then Google New Mexico and homeless students, specifically for high school. So these students graduate. I think part of the reason why we're seeing our graduation rates lower is because of our homeless students. And we do have, I guess, it sounds like we have students that come, stay for a short time, and then leave because their parents move, right? And that hurts your graduation rate. So I'm going to do that. I'll come back. I'll read to you what I sent the governor.
Please finish.
Thank you.
There's another person, Erin Adams. If moved, would you like to speak?
Hello? Oh, no. Okay. Hello, my name is Erin Adams. I'd like to comment on agenda item 6.02, personnel actions. My son is in 1st grade at Falling Spring Elementary. He was transferred there this school year, so he has had about 3.5 months to catch his bearings. It was rough at first, but I am happy to report that he's doing very well. I am thankful, very thankful, for the professionals at Falling Spring. His teachers, principal, and staff have been wonderful to work with and seem to be fostering a positive environment for student growth. One of the things I have loved the most so far as a parent was when families were contacted via Class Dojo about National Custodian Day. Students were encouraged to write thank you cards to Mr. Gunner and Mr. Carlos. When I asked my son if he wanted to make cards for these 2 gentlemen, he voiced a resounding yes. He said that they were so nice, especially Mr. Carlos. Of course, you are aware that Mr. Carlos is no longer at Falling Spring, as he has been detained and deported to Mexico. I am not here to discuss whether or not that should have occurred, but I am asking the board to consider the tremendous impact the disappearance of a beloved custodian has had on our district, especially the Falling Spring community. The students loved Mr. Carlos and have noticed that he is gone. There are rumors swirling through the hallways and classrooms about where he went. My son has come home asking questions and has expressed his frustration and sadness about what he has heard at school. I have been told by other parents that teachers were told they are not allowed to address the students about Mr. Carlos, and were told that they cannot have kids make cards for him. I am thankful to be informed about Mr. Carlos's situation via outside sources, but I am certain that many families have been left in the dark and have fallen victim to a vicious gossip cycle. It is my sincere hope that this school district will take ownership of this unfortunate situation and set an example for our student body on how to respectfully address difficult situations in the face of divisive rhetoric. I didn't know him, but it is my understanding that Mr. Carlos was a phenomenal employee. I hope the Chambersburg Area School District will reach out with kindness and compassion to Mr. Carlos's daughter and grandson. I also hope that the teachers and principal would be allowed to speak to the students about Mr. Carlos and how we can move forward as a community. Maybe even sending a letter home to families addressing facts and talking points with our children. Mr. Carlos was a wonderful influence on our children and on his colleagues, and I hope the board can help restore some of his dignity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other people who would like to speak? Okay, moving on.
Oh, wait, one more.
Oh, okay, go.
Okay, I'm sorry. My name is Laura Alleman, and I am also a parent at Falling Spring Elementary School. And I walked in a little late, which I think may be why I didn't have a chance to sign in that I was speaking. And I also just wanted to reiterate how important Mr. Carlos is to the Falling Spring community. I have 3 sons who attend there, and all of them knew him. He was hard to miss because he was very, very present, as I'm sure many custodians are in the schools. I had the opportunities to volunteer in the lunchroom at the beginning of the year because Falling Spring was without a lunch aide, and so I volunteered 1 to 2 times a week for the first several weeks of school. And I just interacted with him every day that I was there. He was always very friendly and kind. The students there were always happy to see him. He would give fist bumps. He was speaking in Spanish to our Spanish students, and they just felt very welcome with his presence there and very safe and secure with him. And just my boys say he's the kindest custodian we've ever had. They've been in a couple different elementary schools. And so I just do want to encourage our school district, our board, our families, and our community to really learn more about the situation, understand ways that we can help and reach out to him and his family, and care for him as he has cared for our students so well at Falling Spring. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, moving to the consent agenda on previously discussed items that were covered at the Committee of the Whole, 5.01 to 5.06. Is there anything that anyone wants to remove from the consent agenda before we vote on the previously discussed items? Hearing none, do I hear a motion and a second to approve 5.01 through 5.05?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving then to the consent agenda for new items, 6.01 through 6.06. The approval of the minutes, the personnel actions, approval of payment of bills, CMS and Cassius program of study, and early graduation. Are there any of the items, Mr. Bigger, that administration wants to speak to?
Mrs. Luffy, do you want to just talk about the early graduation and the ceremony just for the public's information would be great. Sorry to put you on the spot while you're shuffling papers. But you did give us an invitation tonight.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm excited to announce that we're going to have a graduation ceremony for our early graduates, January 23rd. You should have received an invitation this evening. Please respond with an RSVP kindly so that we know to expect you and also to reserve the spots for you. But we are excited about this opportunity. Historically, the Career Magnet School has had students graduate early due to their block scheduling out there. However, now that Cassius also has block scheduling and the number of students has just swelled that could achieve this recognition early, we are going to be celebrating with a ceremony for those students who have chosen to participate in the ceremony. So we welcome you, and we are excited to have this opportunity for our kids.
Okay. After we have the approval of the items, if there's any discussion or questions about the items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda for new items, board members can ask questions. Do I hear a motion to approve 6.01 to 6.05?
Move to approve. Second.
Is there a discussion or questions for any of the items listed? I personally would just like to comment that I think the parents and I as a board member need cliff notes for your program of studies. I'm not sure how a parent would digest and guide their student with that program of study. Do you have any suggestions?
We are going to have a parent scheduling night for our students to meet with counselors and get some additional guidance and support in how to navigate all of this, especially with Sapphire and doing it online. In addition, I have encouraged the counseling department to create videos so that when parents are asking their kid at home, how's scheduling going, and the kid says, oh, it's great, and mom and dad are like, let me see it, and they're like, we don't know how to, that there's a video to accompany them on our website, so they're working on that as well.
I was excited to see that you have a basic level consumer math course that's pending board approval. Is there a similar basic English class that's being considered, knowing that many students just need to know proper grammar, they don't need to be able to read Shakespeare and so forth?
That's an interesting question that you have. I was just talking with English teachers about leveling our Englishes to 3 levels compared to 2 right now, to be able to differentiate the needs of our students better. So while it's not in this program of studies, stay tuned for next year.
My other question had to do with the reference to Wilson College and Robert Morris University. I saw nothing about the associate degree that a student last year got from HAC or anything from Shippensburg. How do students know how to schedule those kinds of pathways? Is it something that there's a clear understanding as to what they can do? Because I couldn't figure it out from reading your manuscript.
The counselors will be meeting with the students in student meetings and going over all of the different options. So they will be sharing that information for the students at that time. And I am hoping that when we do the grade level videos, the counselors highlight options for each grade level. So for 11th and 12th graders, they'll be talking about dual enrollment, and then also our college and the high school courses that we have available, and Shippensburg and Wilson colleges.
I ask because I have had several constituents comment about their past graduates having college credits but having no clear pathway, no really benefit from those college credits because they didn't transfer any place and so forth. And I just am concerned that we need to have clearer pathways for students to know that if they follow this pathway, they will get to where they want to go. So I'm sure you're working on it. I know you're new, and I'm looking forward to great things. Any other questions about any of the consent agenda new items? If not, we can have a vote. Those in favor signify by saying yes.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay, moving to old business. There is no old business. There's no education and services report, no finance, the finance and facilities. There is 9.01, the accelerated budget opt-out resolution. Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes, under Act 1, we're required to either indicate that we will stay within the index or present a preliminary budget. Our direction for this year will be to stay within the index, which is adjusted at 4.6%. This is the first of a couple votes that we'll have for the budget process.
Do you want us to vote on all of 9
Yeah,
together?
typically.
They're individual.
Okay, then, go ahead with your approval of the settlement stipulation. Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah. Should vote on these individually. We don't have these as a consent.
Oh, okay.
Move to approve item 9.01, please.
Second.
Any discussion on the opt-out resolution? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to 9.02.
Yes, the administration recommends the approval of the settlement stipulation between Chambersburg Common LLC as presented.
Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll have the vote then. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The gifts, grants, and donations are listed, and we appreciate each and every one of those donations. And any discussion on those, anything to point out, Mr. Woodman? No?
Move to approve item 9.03.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Mike says.
And Mr. Haydick
said-
seconded.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving to policy and legislation, Mr. Bigger.
Yep, the first section, policies with no changes. You see the review on those. They're basically dates, mostly.
Motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the first read of policies. Those would be the student services, student fundraising, pregnant parenting, and married students. Any discussion? Move to approve? Motion to approve?
So
Move,
moved.
move to approve.
Second.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then the second read, we have the Coaches Advisors Code of Ethics, extracurricular participation by charter, cyber students, standards of victims of violent crimes, postgraduate students, medications, quality point average, class ranking, care of school property, gifts, school organizations and groups. Any comments about those or a motion to approve?
Madam President, could we bifurcate this group? I would like to vote on number 9 separately if we could. But, is that,
Certainly.
so I'd make a motion to approve items 1 through 8 in section 10.03.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on 1 through 8?
Just that policy 144 says victims of violent crimes. You might want to say violent, I believe. Just as a
Spelling.
spelling note.
Thank you.
I didn't even notice that when I was typing up my. I knew what it said. Okay.
Is it correct in the, can you scroll down to the attachment? Is it correct in the attachment? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So it's correct in the policy, just not in the summary.
Okay, we'll have a vote then. Those in favor of 1 through 8 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Motion passes. Number 9, need a motion to approve number 9 before discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. What discussion would you like to have, Mr.?
Just preface my no vote here. And spoiler alert, I've talked about this policy before, don't want to go into great depth, but out of the 3 organizations, I think all 3 organizations, PTO being 1, boosters being 2, foundation being 3. I think all 3 deserve their own policy, and to group 2 together and then omit the 3rd, I just can't support that.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll have a vote then. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 8-1. next section, which is safety and security. There's none. New business, none. And are there any comments related to future board business that anyone wants to share under new business? If not, the information section has a number of important things on. Does Mrs. Stauffer or Mr. Woodman have any comments about any of the information items? No?
I would just say the curriculum maps, some of those are in the program of studies as an asterisk pending board approval, so this is information only. They'll be coming to a future board meeting for approval. We're just following the policy. They will do the information in time that folks can review the maps out on the in the lobby.
Do any of the board representatives to the LIU, Franklin Learning Center, or FCCTC have any reports that they'd like to share?
We didn't have a meeting this month, but I was given the opportunity to tour the Paradise School, which is out in Abbottstown. It's different from the learning centers in that it is mainly focused on emotional support. It's mainly focused on kids that are having a hard time with behaviors in the classroom. And so the smaller spaces out there, the smaller classroom sizes and the more personalized environment seem to really blossom a lot of those kids. We actually had 3 different students, one from elementary, one from middle, and one from high school that took us around and showed us. They're a very incentive-based program. They have colors, whether you're just, green is the best and you have to be on green if you want to get some of the privileges. It's a very close-knit community out there, and the way that they are interacting with the kids and the way that they are, it's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of some of what we've seen with the positive behavior, but it's kind of a little bit of a different scale because they use it K to 12. So you even have the kids that are in the high school level that are in their little sections because they have the teachers for things and they're kind of grouped off, much like we're going to be doing, I believe, with the winged sections of the new building. So I would encourage anybody, if you have interest, to do that, just to see the setup out there. It is an older school. It used to be an orphanage, and then they turned it in. The Harrisburg Diocese owns that property, and as long as it's used for educating 18 and under, they are going to have access to that. It used to be, it was an orphanage, and then it turned into a home for adjudicated youth, boys that were 13 to 18, so a lot of people still think it's the bad kids' place, but that's not it. There's boys and girls there now, K to 12, about 77 students, and their goal is, talking to Mr. Ott, who some of you may know, he was actually out at the Learning Center for a while, and now he is the principal there. He said that they had 100 students at the end of last year, but now they only have 77 because many of those students were allowed to go back to their districts because they felt that they'd learned coping mechanisms. They have timeout rooms, so you can just say, I've had enough of this, I need about 5 minutes, and I think maybe we should all have that sometimes in our regular lives. But it was a really good experience to see that and to hear the experience from the students' point of view. Some kids who were really having a hard time, and they're really excelling in that environment with those teachers. And so if you are interested in seeing that sometime, let me know, because I could definitely go back and maybe learn a little bit more. So it was different to see because I've toured York Learning Center and Franklin Learning Center, and it's a completely different environment there. So I was glad I got to go and have that experience.
As I mentioned whenever Leslie was finishing up, if any of you have not been to the Career Center, I'd be happy to escort you because that is a wonderful place for any of you who may not be familiar with what goes on out there.
I have a friendly
I'll just add
reminder.
on to that, if I could, just
Yes,
real quickly, that
certainly.
December's a tough month for this guy because I have meeting conflicts in December because everything gets moved because of Christmas. So I need an alternate to attend Career Tech on Thursday night. And if you choose to go, I think you'll end up getting a present because you usually do.
So see Ed if you were.
Is it this Thursday?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's this Thursday.
You want a commitment from somebody if they can go?
Anybody
Yeah,
able?
I cannot go, so you can rock, paper, scissors, or whatever.
What time is the meeting?
7.
I could do that.
You'll-
If no one else is available, I
You'll
can
get a
do
present,
7
you can
o'clock.
thank me later.
Okay.
Most likely upon setup. Okay, if there's nothing else, the meeting is
I have a friendly
I'm sorry.
reminder, yeah.
Sorry.
Wednesday and Thursday at the Franklin Learning Center will be their Christmas presentation. 12:30, my advice is get there early and carpool if you can. Parking will be horrendous. And you will probably not get a present, but it's a very, very awesome event.
Anything else to share? If not, the meeting's adjourned.